Benjamin, you can take the night shift, baby, because Midge already had a drink and she already saw some painting, so I guess she's all yours. That's what we can kind of conclude from the episode. But the cat's finally out of the bag. The entire family knows the secret. Thank God. We have so much to break down, so don't go away.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome to the marvelous Mrs. Maisel after show, everyone. What a great episode we have to break down. Lots of hats, lots of art, but before we get into it, I'm Steph Sabraw. I'm joined by the two loveliest panelists, Briana Phipps.
Hey, everybody.
Jeff Graham.
Loveliest. I'm so flattered. Thank you.
Sometimes I overuse the word marvelous because this show is so marvelous, so I was trying to change my adjectives.
I love it. Let's change it up.
Very good.
So we have an exciting episode to break down, perhaps my favorite of the season so far.
Hot take.
I
It's a bold
I know
bold
you guys
statement,
didn't
Con.
like it, that's why I came in hard.
I did not like it.
What we'll break down today, I think we'll start with Midge and Joel because it's the year anniversary of when everything went down. And then get into the arts and the date with Benjamin and where that led to. And then Midge's confession, which it was pretty epic. But before we do that, what was your guys' overall thoughts?
I just want to make sure I did not like this episode. I just think that after the past two were so extreme that this one just was a little bit slower pace, which isn't a bad thing, but it just came off of watching the other two that I think were my favorites of both seasons almost.
Yeah.
It just brought it down a little bit in tone for me.
I agree. Yeah. I think with this episode, this is one of those times when you think streaming is great, but sometimes the ability to not have to edit any episodes to allow any runtime for any, this episode's 57 minutes, this episode's 42 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could have shaved 6 or 7 minutes off of this episode and helped the episode. I think there was a bit too much wandering for me, but it was still good. And, I just think I was surprised by how little development there was this episode, and I've got to get Midge back on stage to do some stand-up.
That's really interesting, you guys. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think what made this my favorite episode was that it was emotion-packed, and I think there was a little bit more depth than we've seen in other episodes,
Okay.
especially with the art and kind of the metaphor it plays in Midge's life.
Yeah.
But there was a lot to unpack. It was kind of crammed, but I do see what you mean where there could have been parts taken out or maybe switched to a different episode.
Just paced up a bit, I think.
I do love watching the differences between Midge moving on and Joel moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how drastically different they portray, each of them is taking the move on.
But
True.
they've gotten a lot better. I also wanted to mention that after we break it down, we'll have, of course, our very special segment where we focus on a female comedian. And today we have...
Ali Wong.
So excited. I love her. And then we'll get into some predictions.
Great. And a little news and gossip,
Yeah,
too.
a little news and
I
gossip.
love that. Okay, Midge and Joel. It's the 1-year anniversary of the day Joel walked out on Midge and, quote, her whole life fell apart. So, like you were saying, Brie, it's interesting to see the differences. Midge has Benjamin. What do we think about Benjamin after the date and everything?
I mean, I'm liking him more and more as we go on. Obviously, it's a little bit of the time period where he's let me be the one to step in and take care of you. And she's like, nah, I got it. With men kind of,
Leading.
well, she says she goes out and it's just a fact of life. When you go out as a woman, men find excuses to touch you and be, especially when there's drinking and stuff. And she's just like, I've learned to deal with it. And he's like, well, maybe I can take 10% of that. It's kind of just that him realize, but he's still joking about it. I think that's the difference between the time period of that and the time period of now. I don't
Right.
think that they would be joked about quite as much now.
Yeah, I like Ben, too. I don't have super strong opinions about him. I wouldn't say I love him, but I also don't dislike him. Maybe that's another thing, too, is I like Zachary Levi. I like this character enough, but I'm a little bit okay, is he just here to make Joel jealous? Are they long game? I want to see some decisions made with this character rather than just he's a doctor
A
who...
decision was made.
Yeah,
A decision to go up to the house.
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
It was. There was progression.
Yeah, I like him. I wish I had stronger opinions about him, but I do like him.
Was anyone surprised when she basically said that Joel was the only guy she's been with? I think because she talks about sex so much in her stand-up, and she's talked about, I guess she's only ever talked about other sexual things and not necessarily sex itself.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, huh.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I agree with you on that one. I'm going to jump back really quick to what I said. No, you're totally fine. I just had a thought, and I just want to make sure I say it. One thing I appreciate about not loving Benjamin's character is he's maybe a little underdeveloped. But I think that's the thing with a lot of the men in this show besides Abe, and that never happens on TV, that the women are the most interesting characters and the men are underdeveloped. So I actually want to applaud that on one level because, like, in every other show, the sort of boring romantic pursuit would be a woman, and in this case, I think it's probably him. So I think that's good in some ways.
That's a good distinction. And when I think about shows and the girls that they bring in for the guys' various dating escapades, we never really question the depth of their character.
Yeah, I mean, we see it with Joel and like his 5. I mean, it's going to sound derogatory, but the only way to classify them, I feel like, is like saying bimbos.
Yeah.
Because that's how they're
Floozies,
portrayed.
maybe?
They're like call girls.
Yeah, they're just like girls that are there to have sex, and like maybe they're just hoping a marriage falls out of it.
Maybe Thoughts? Is that the new? Or is that right?
Thoughts. It is. That's a perfect word, Jeff. I'm so impressed with your language use.
I'm learning.
And also for Midge's side, she's back at the makeup department officially and killing it. And the more that I think about the episode with the juxtaposition of the art and his explanation of what art can do to you, I think that we see Benjamin and B. Altman in this particular episode because those things can't really be at the same time as comedy.
True. They're her hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
They exist in this episode to serve as visions of what won't serve her for her life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why, Steph.
I got like very Sex and the City flashbacks because of the art, and I don't know if that was like something they intended, but there's a couple episodes of Sex and the City that deal specifically with art. Mm-hmm. And it felt very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, New York is like, just as LA is the film and TV capital of the world, New York is like the art capital of the world. So I feel like it's such a rich environment to use that as a symbolic device.
We might as well talk about the art scene right now because it has to do with Benjamin and the date. What did you guys think of the buying of the art and then going to the bar after? Did any of those scenes intrigue you?
I do often think on this show,
I don't like it.
I thought it was fine. I was just kind of like, what are we doing? And I will say, I'm getting to a point a little bit where I'm like, how do all of these people have so much time? Which I know is a sitcom thing, but I'm like, just, you know.
I think my favorite part from the art scene was the woman saying that the ladder looked nice.
Yeah, I love.
I don't know if that's a good thing, but that was my most memorable part of it.
It is funny. The art connoisseurs are funny to me because it's like you're putting meaning in something that you really will never know what the meaning was, and sometimes it's intended like that so you can put some sort of meaning in it, but a lot of times I feel like artists are just creating and you are just placing this huge sentiment on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like I can relate to Midge because I'm not the biggest art person. Like I walk through museums very quickly. I'll say it that way. I don't sit and study a piece forever. And a lot of times what people are like talking about and like grasping the meanings and all of this behind this and this and that, I feel more like Midge. We're like, I like that one. That one's pretty. Look at this.
Yeah. I'm laughing a little bit because I feel like on one hand, as TV critics, we're like, I love the symbolism of Midge with B. Altman, but then we're like, but with this art, people just put way too much meaning into it.
Well, everyone loves a different type of art, and
It's
for
true,
me,
exactly.
I'm a hypocrite.
For me, it's more television, film, theater
Right.
than it is paintings and sculptures.
I couldn't agree more because I love music too, and with visual art, I don't get it. I'm the same way. Books, good writing, I love, but
I think it's the money we put into art, like those pieces that they were buying. But I did love the Declan Howell part, the most famous unknown artist in the world. What has he been in? He looks so familiar. Jeff, do you know that?
I'll look it
I feel
up.
like he was in Coupling, but I could be wrong. He might just look like someone in Coupling.
Was he in Gladiator?
I'm looking it up.
Okay. Anyways, I thought that was a funny scene, and it showed how, again, charismatic Midge is and her ability to navigate any situation, even the most kind of grotesque.
I was just so intrigued as to what the painting was.
I know, they never showed us.
I know.
I mean, I think it was purposeful that they didn't show us. But
Yeah, but that was cool. That was my favorite scene. I think that's what made the episode, because it just was so deep. And he never seeing it, I guess, made sense for it. I wish I could have seen it, but I guess they couldn't really show it because it would have had to be the most beautiful art piece we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right. You just can't.
it's like all of us probably are thinking of something completely different than each other.
But I wanted to know what was the genre? Were you painting?
A
I
single
don't know, because
red
we
dot.
didn't really see much of his art. Like, you saw a little bit in the background as Benjamin's picking it up, and he's just like, nope. But yeah, I didn't get a full feel of like what kind of artist he was. But I think, again, they didn't want us to know.
Yeah.
Steph, do you watch The Man in the High Castle?
No.
He's the lead in that show.
Oh, okay. Maybe I've just seen. That's a Amazon show.
Synergy.
Yeah,
Could be.
I've probably just seen. I feel like I've seen him before. Anyways, he was awesome. The quote he said, "If you want to do something great, if you want to take it as far as it will go, you can't have everything. You lose family, a sense of home, but then look what exists."
Do you agree with that?
No. I hope that's not the case, but I think
I feel like
in
so
our
many
position,
people think that way, though. Like, you can either have career or you can have family. You can't have both.
I'm a little bit in between because did you guys ever see the movie Whiplash?
Yes.
So that movie, like, is a pretty convincing argument as to why you have to give something everything to succeed. It's a really good movie, Steph. I think you'd like it. It's like Maisel. It's about a very, like, prodigious, like a very, very talented drummer. And he kind of, throughout the movie, asks the question, like, is this worth it? Like, giving everything I have to this. And I think that's what this episode is exploring. And I think I've heard really smart people make the case for both, of you can have it all. But then I've also heard reasonable people say, no, you can't have hobbies if you want. I mean, like, our CEO and founder, Keven Undergaro, would say if you want to work in this business, the only things that are more important are the health and well-being of your loved ones. Mm-hmm. But, like, you can't have hobbies. Like, this has to be your hobby. You know, this has to be your free time.
I mean, but working in the entertainment industry and Midge being a comic, like, hobbies are work.
Yeah.
So it figures out. But, I mean, and you're kind of the best argument for it, seeing as you're the only one right now of this panel, at least, that's married. So you would be the only argument right now.
That's true.
Both work.
And you know what? My wife also works in this business. Maybe that's the key, is she needs to find someone. And this is the issue with Joel. She needs to find someone who understands her career.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting subject and something I go back and forth with, especially with art. I think in our particular cases, we end up, it's an all-encompassing passion where we get to watch TV and film most of the time, and we get to talk to people, like interview people. I don't have any complaints about that. I don't have any complaints about researching. I will say that lately, as I progress in my career, I've had this thought more often than not. Like, I just can't go out at all, which I don't mind. But it's interesting what other people put.
I mean, I think there's a balance in everything, and just like for certain times of your life, like for right now, like I understand what they're saying, because for right now, Midge is starting out, so maybe she needs to be dedicating more time to comedy. But I think life is all a balance. So at some point, maybe you can balance in a little bit more free time, a little bit more family time, and a relationship. But at some point, like, you do have to give a little bit more to your career if that's what you're going after at that exact moment. I don't think she can necessarily create a successful, long-lasting relationship and be working completely on coming up in her comedy career at the same time. I think that's really hard to do.
It's too early. She needs to plant all the seeds first. And you know what? Credit to the show, because I think it didn't tell us how we had to feel. And it is allowing us to have this discussion with no clear right or wrong answer based on what the show thinks. So I hear you, Steph. The episode's growing on me.
Yeah, it will be more interesting to see what Midge does with it, especially as a woman, and her responsibility at that time being greater for the kids.
Yeah. I think for the time being, Midge is just going to be like, she's so stubborn that she's like, no, I can have whatever I want.
She's not going to get it.
And this is the first time in her life she has been able to kind of go after whatever she wants. So
Yeah, you're right.
On the flip side, we briefly touched on Joel, but this episode had more Joel than the past episodes, which he is growing on me, which I cannot believe it. Because last season I could not stand him at all. But he bought the building that houses his family's garment factory, and he's celebrating, and it was actually really... I loved that scene. I felt really good for him, and then all of a sudden it went down, and he just wants to be forgiven. Do you think he deserves... But I think that's him projecting.
I mean, he's drunk. And a lot of times things that you can hold back more when you're sober come out when you're drunk. So you just have to kind of listen to him in that moment. I think that's his undertone, is like, we've seen it. Like, we've seen the little signs of him wanting to be with Midge. We've seen him regretting what he did and his decisions. And I think that this is just all coming. It's been a year now, and like, it's a perfect parallel. So she says, like, a year ago, this is when my whole life blew up. And he's like, a year ago is when I ruined everything.
They got the rabbi.
They got the rabbi. What do we have at AfterBuzz TV, Jeff?
We got for me, it's the sparkling water. Those deliveries, man. We got the bubbles.
But we also have so many great channels to bring you guys as much content as possible. And we just want to say thank you guys for being our family here at AfterBuzz TV, being our extra panelist at home, on your couch, on your bed, wherever you are. You guys mean so much to us, chatting along and helping out with us. But if you guys could just do a couple of things for us, it would be a huge help, which is subscribe to this channel. If you're on YouTube, leave us a comment. If you're on iTunes, leave us a comment as well, but give us a 5-star rating. Nothing else but 5 stars works. And it really helps us out to give us those 5 stars. And let us know what you're thinking. I think for all of us, AfterBuzz has been a place where we can kind of discuss different things that maybe other people in our lives aren't watching, but it's also been a community.
Yeah.
Where I get to meet like-minded people, and I get to create long-lasting friendships and relationships, and it's been just a blast being able to be a part of such a community like this where everybody is helping each other, especially in an industry where people are known to be selfish. So
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for all that you do, and thank you for allowing us to do what we love to do, and keep watching those shows.
Yeah.
Well said. I'm glad Briana took that one.
Yeah.
She knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, that was like really. I was like, I love AfterBuzz too. Okay, the big money time, Midge's confession. The whole scene at Temple was hilarious. That family is so out of control. But I was that kid at church. Like, I know Jeff went to Catholic church too, and I don't know why.
Protestant.
Actually, we both were raised
Yes.
Presbyterian.
Oh, but how long is the church?
Hour.
An hour and a half.
No matter what time I ate before, even if I was walking and eating, I would find myself starving as a child.
Well, plus they're fasting, right?
Yeah, like
So-
it's even more so. It's not just like you're hungry because breakfast was 2 hours ago. You're hungry because you haven't eaten in like a full day almost.
Which the kids should definitely not be doing that. I'm glad they didn't.
I don't know how a kid would do that.
You know what? I'm glad they were feeding him healthy food. We always
Candy.
see good examples of good parenting in this show, and if the kids aren't going to fast, give them 3 chocolate bars. That's how to parent. Good job, Midge.
That's called my breakfast, so I agree with that. But this is an interesting scene because I was surprised by Midge actually wanting to go through with this. Or she didn't want to go through with it. Abe pressed it. But the timing, I just don't understand. You have a starving family, and you decide to drop a bomb like this.
I don't understand why they couldn't have been eating while she said it.
Yeah.
It honestly, like, if I was in her position, I would be like, that might make the blow a little less hard. But I was also surprised that they all seemed to take it pretty well. Like, Abe took it the worst, and he was the one that already knew.
Right, and the show kind of framed it where Abe's real resentment might much more be toward Noah than toward
100%.
Midge, which was interesting. I gotta say, this scene, I obviously love this show. Amy Sherman-Palladino's brilliant. It was like maybe 10% too much, like crazy dialogue and antics. Like there was 6 interruptions, and I feel like after 4, I was kind of like, okay, I get the joke. Like, let's let Midge talk. I don't know. So personally, this was just a little too much MMM for me, which stands for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see that too, because the difference between this and the door buzzer scene of last episode was that we didn't know what the catch was,
Right.
and this we knew. So
Right.
we're like, come on!
It was also that the door buzzer scene was still shorter than this one, it felt like.
It was 3, which is typically like in comedy, that's your goal. 3 and then maybe a button later, but this was 6, like interruptions.
Oh, really? 6?
Zelda came in 3 times.
Yeah, it felt exhausting by the end for me, which is I
Yeah.
think maybe what they were going for.
You're
They
right.
wanted us to feel super exhausted by it because that's what her family was all feeling.
Yes.
I will say that one thing that I have enjoyed this season, and we got a lot at the temple and in this scene, was her parents and Joel's parents like butting
Butting heads.
heads. Because I love the fact that they are more alike than they I think, want to admit, because they're both quirky in their own ways, but they just can't get along. And you would think that with their kids not being together, that Joel would have to be forced upon her family, and maybe she would be forced upon his family, but that the two families wouldn't have to really coincide beside that.
Yeah. It is an interesting choice of comedy, though, now that you say that, where they really make you feel it. I don't know if you guys have seen The Oath. It's a new movie, but there's a scene where it just went on, but the point was to really make you uncomfortable and feel like you were a part of it. But that heightened comedy it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But Susie broke the ice and she made the scene worth it because she can just take over any scene.
She can.
So other than Midge, like Susie's right there.
One of my favorite lines is when she says hey to Amy. He's like, hello, person I've never met before that's obviously projecting on that I am the father of this family.
Good deduction.
I was like, yeah, played that really smooth, Abe. No one's going to know.
But what I did not understand was how Astrid was actually participating in the fast, but then we find out she's pregnant, so the cream worked, I guess.
The Chinese herb cream, whatever it was, that was apparently really pungent.
Astrid's
paid
like
off.
a sneak attack great character on this show. They've really done a good job with that character. I think part of it's the actress, but I've come to really enjoy the moments we get with her.
I think it's really easy for us to relate to her because we aren't Jewish and she's the only non-Jew. And so every time they're having these things and she just wants to fit in, I feel like we've kind of become so involved in the show and we love the family that we want to be able to fit in, but we
She's
just will
us.
never. Yes, exactly.
That's a good point, Brie.
No,
I see that.
I'll do that with my Jewish family friends. Like I'll go
Insert yourself.
I'll go to their various holidays, which are always so fun. I actually just got invited. I think this Friday's Passover, I believe, or maybe it was last
Passover
Friday.
is not until
Or
Easter,
Yom,
right?
It was some Jewish holiday, and I should have participated, or it was just like a tradition, but I didn't. But anyways, they're always very welcoming, so I would be like Astrid, where I'd go balls to the wall with it.
I love a Seder, I will say. That like figgy like stuff you dip the halal, it's so good.
Yeah, I'm
is
definitely
great.
here for all the food. I'm just not here for the fasting part of it.
Yes.
And finally, we did get more insight onto Susie's life. This was the first time we saw her family.
I was so happy because I predicted that last episode.
did.
I was like, I predict we're going to get more of Susie's family because they've hinted at it.
Yeah, what'd you think of them? Just as horrible as we thought.
I mean, I didn't know what to think of her family before we met them. Like, I had no idea I didn't even know she had siblings.
Right.
I mean, her sister was endearing, but I was just like, girl, get away from that guy if he's making your life this miserable. But I
Yeah.
also know it's the time.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think like I don't know how much it did for the show, but I think it did a lot for Susie. Like it kind of rounded out her character, and I feel like it was a chance for the writers to like explore like where does Susie come from, which was funny and good. And
And I
liked
think
it.
it's very much gives us knowledge as to why she doesn't necessarily go and hang out with her family a lot. And she's
You're
not
right.
very close with them, and maybe why she doesn't understand Midge's closeness with her family.
It's a good point.
Yeah, her brother's horrible, and her sister's husband, like, you cannot be a douchebag and have a peg leg. It doesn't,
And her mother's an alcoholic.
Yeah, they're kind of a mess, huh? It almost makes Susie seem like she's really got her SHIT together.
Yeah, I guess they had to do that to like, Susie couldn't just show up with a car. So
Yeah.
it was longer, and I think that they used this as probably the one and only time they're going to go into her family. And so they
What was she going to blame the car being stolen? Was it nuns?
on the nuns.
Yeah, it
The
was
nuns.
nuns.
Always the
Of
nuns.
course. Of course.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the episode?
No, I mean, like I said, I think it was good for what it was trying to do, which was move the pace along. But I think it's just this show has been created to be a binge show.
Yes.
And so when you're watching it, like we're doing, where we're not watching forward, that is slowing it down a little bit.
Took a little bit of molasses as you're running toward the end. Yeah, I think what I would have loved, so the A story was basically all three stories were just character development. So like, what should Midge do? What should Susie do? What should, there's a third, what should Joel do? And so I think like I would have wanted one story to be like, they do something. Whereas all these were, all three stories were speculative, which I think is why it felt a little sluggish to me.
But it did cue up that they're going to go on the road.
Yes.
Which we knew because of the predictions, not the predictions, but the when we, at the end of last season we read what was going to come up in season 2. That was one of the things they said was definitely going to be happening.
Yeah.
So
Which is probably a segue for Benjamin to leave.
Yeah.
But I'll get more into that when we get into predictions. Bree, can you get us into our special segment?
Yes. So our special segment, we highlight a different female comic. This week I chose Ali Wong, especially coming off the SAG Awards with all the amazing Asian actress wins. I just wanted to highlight somebody that I found randomly on the internet when I was early 20s and I thought was hilarious.
Oh, nice. You were on it.
Yeah.
So this one I thought
married.
just relates to
I do. I
the
want
show.
to get married real bad because I have this fantasy that if I get married, I get to stop doing all the shit women have to do to keep fuckable. Like, I could just trap a dude and make no more effort. I don't want to wear thong underwear anymore. I want to be free to not wear thong underwear. I just want to wear little boys' underwear. Because that's what fits. I don't know what that pocket in the front is for. That's just where I put my keys when I run.
That's good right there, I think. I just wanted to show a little clip of her, especially that one I thought because of the 50s and women having to do that. I thought it was funny for her to be like, I just want to stop doing this.
It's something Midge would do. It feels like the contemporary version of a Midge set. She loves to talk about standards of beauty on the show, so excellent choice, Brie.
Yeah, great choice. And shout out to all the Asian American actresses killing it. And in comedy, we don't get very many. So Ali Wong is a complete all-star.
Especially after watching Crazy Rich Asians, they were all so funny in that film.
Awkwafina?
It's weird that we don't have more.
There is probably
they're just not known
underground,
as much.
and culturally also it's different. There's different standards, which is why it's hard to break those barriers.
True.
Well, speaking of barriers, many were broken at the SAG Awards.
Yeah.
So we're getting some news.
AfterBuzz TV News.
The SAG Awards were on Sunday, simulcast on TBS and TNT at 8 p.m. Pacific, if any of you guys were watching. And real quick plug, we do have a great watch-along for the SAG Awards. So if you want to hear some brilliant commentators' thoughts on that, go check that out on our AfterBuzz TV Originals channel. But let's talk about, Maisel had a great showing at the awards. I don't think any of us are shocked. This is still kind of considered the prestige comedy of our time. But Maisel won Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Comedy Series, Outstanding Performer by a Male in a Comedy Series, of course, Tony Shalhoub playing Abe. He's having a great couple of years, you guys. And finally, our very own Rachel Brosnahan, Midge Maisel herself, won Outstanding Female Actress in a Comedy Series. I gotta say, as long as this show is on the air, it does kind of feel like one of those runners. The only person that I think could upset her when the season returns is Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Veep. That's the other. She had a run of 4 before Maisel, so.
And just to be also clear on it, Alex Bornstein was also nominated, but with the way the SAG Awards work, she was nominated in the same category that Rachel Brosnahan was, so it had to be one or the other. So they did sweep if you look at it that way.
Hey, well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
That is awesome. They're really sweeping it. They're like the new Modern Family, I feel, show, which is great.
The new Modern Family, taking place in the 50s.
Which in Modern Family still, I think, is going.
It is.
Yeah, it's not winning anymore, but it's still going. It's still
they
making
won
money.
so much. It's okay.
They had their time.
And the show, I will say, is still pretty good. For fans of comedy, I'm still keeping up with Modern Family, and it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still very sharp. So
I wonder how long, because I know Big Bang Theory just got told that this is the final season, so I wonder how much longer it will.
They're thinking 1 or 2 more.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's just hard to compete nowadays with the streaming seasons and shows because there's so many.
And I will say, and I don't know if
Right.
Marvelous Miss Maisel has this, but I much prefer when shows have a clear-cut note, like they know where they're going at the end of it, which sometimes not just sitcoms, but also the hour-longs, because we see it with Grey's Anatomy as well, but they keep going to the point of exhaustion, and it's because the writers don't know where the end is.
Right. That's network.
Because the network keeps renewing it.
Right.
So, and sometimes with streaming, I think we have this. Like, I'm hoping Miss Maisel is like this, where they're like, we know exactly how this is going to end, because then you get a more cohesive story.
Yeah, like Game of Thrones.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into our predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Ooh.
That was a little twist.
Since this was kind of a setup episode, I feel like Oh, Jeff, did you already watch them? Did you
No.
watch? Okay, great.
Yeah, I can predict.
What's your predictions?
Oh man, I should have thought about this. I think we're gonna see a dramatic. I might have said this last episode too, so I'm gonna say it again. A dramatic like love triangle moment with Joel, Benjamin, and Midge. I think that's coming, and I think we're gonna have like a big Susie moment soon, where maybe like I feel like Midge has been kind of resisting comedy. I want to see Susie have like an epic monologue where she's like, "Girl, get your SHIT together and get on that stage and be a comic." That's a pretty good Susie impression, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you. Amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to get a little bit of love triangle. I think it might take an episode or two because I think she'll go on the road and they won't really delve into that maybe until she's back. I think that we're going to definitely go a little bit more into now that her whole family knows, and especially because the reactions weren't as intense as I thought they would be. I think Rose might have a delayed reaction. So she heard about it, but she was hungry. So maybe she didn't have the energy to be shocked. And maybe Joel's parents. I just want Joel's parents to go to a show of hers because her dad kept saying she wasn't funny.
Yeah,
I know.
He
So I
would
just want
for
to go.
sure think she's funny.
Yeah.
I know. I was curious about Rose's her reaction, but also this is post Paris Rose.
It's true.
So we get a little bit different Rose than we would have seen last season if this happened, but I still think there's going to be a blow up. There's no way once she actually finds out what Midge is talking about.
Yeah, maybe when she sees her comedy.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm sure she'll be like, I support you. And she'll get on stage and be like, you can't say that stuff on stage.
Yeah, it's one thing to say what you're doing, it's another to say what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, also slight other prediction because the rabbi did walk out. I think that might be brought up as well to be held against her, is that they finally got the rabbi, and because of her deciding that moment to let them all know, the rabbi did not stay for the leg of lamb.
Ooh, and to jump off that even more, Brie, maybe it'll affect their synagogue, where the rabbi's she is not atoning for her sins of the Lord, and she's a stand-up. And then all of a sudden it's the talk of the church or the temple.
There was that whole kind of storyline about atoning for your sins,
Yes.
and it's starting over, which is such a funny it's like New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
I think they were kind of acting like that is their new year.
Yeah.
We're now atoning for sin. We're now allowed to start the next
They're
year.
rationing
Yom
their lives.
Kippur is the start of the Jewish sabbatical or liturgical New Year. So
It's where they take a break.
There's a word
after their
there.
2-month
I think
vacation for the summer.
Yeah, which that is a thing. But yeah, I think Yom Kippur does represent the new start of the religious year. So
I'm kind of with Jeff on my predictions. I think there might be a blowout between Benjamin, Joel, and Midge, but I think at the end of the day, we're going to have 0 men involved in Midge because that's the only way she can progress in her comedy career, and I really want them to be on the road. I would love to see more comedy shows.
agreed. She needs to be on stage.
Yeah, it was a little bit disappointing that she's going to go to the set tonight, and then we jump forward and it's already over.
Yeah.
That was because I love watching her do stand up.
Agreed.
Well, I can't wait for the next episode to cover.
Tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Jeff, until then, where can we find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham.
And you guys can find me at Bri, BRI_Phipps, PHIPPS on Twitter and Instagram, and on Sundays on the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend after show at 6 p.m.
You guys, thanks for tuning in. I can't wait to break down the next episode. I'm Steph Sabraw. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.